Hey everybody, it's your boy Pagan Tech, and we are here with another session of Roundtable of Fools. We got some people that are nincompoops, some are idiots, and tonight we have Green Bear, we have Tommy, we have Jerry Formal, and we plan on talking about music that was most impactful to our lives, along with our usual ramblings. So drop a follow for this channel and a subscribe if that function's working for you. That'll get you a chance to see when I come online and stream, as I never know when I can due to life and the dying video card that I have. So now, the host of our show, Tommy, take it away.
Well, thank you very much. Anyway, how's everybody doing? This is Tom, variously known as Tom, Tommy, Tommy K, Tommy Scott, Hoser on occasion, Knob sometimes, depending on who's addressing me. Hope everybody's yeah, well, that too, dwarf. Hope everybody's had a great week and had a great last week. The show last week was pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. We had a good time with that, and more of the same for this week. I think we're all still digging this whole thing. I know I am, and I'm sure I bugged these other three guys to death during the week, asking questions, pushing and prodding, and asking all sorts of stuff. So you'll have to forgive me for that, but I'm quite excited about this whole endeavor. But anyway. It has been a pretty good week on my end. Work is sailing along, so no complaints there. It cuts into my free time, obviously, but I'm making the best of it. But enough about me. Let us do. Let me see. I think Pagan Tech did a plug. I think Jerry does not have a plug this week again. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't. Again, the Discord server that I'm in for the server, it's been completely just dead silent all week, so...
All right.
Still got nothing.
Well, there's only so much you can do. It's not like you can go over there and kick the guy in the pants to get him to do what he needs to do, so...
No. Wish I could, though.
Yeah. Although I do have to say that Jerry Formal did get a snazzy new set of headphones.
Yes, I did.
Is snazzy the word we're going to go with?
If you want to call it that, sure.
I think they're pretty snazzy.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I was on the fence about the cat ears at first, but I kind of like them.
Yeah, I think they're
like
nice.
the shade of the set, the color.
Yeah, you would actually. Yeah, and those are razors. So it's like I think they actually call that green razor green or something like that.
Yeah,
it's a shockingly green
I think it
color.
matches
But anyway,
Green's hat.
it's pretty darn close if it doesn't. Yeah.
I think it's closer to the beard myself.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
I
it's
can
more
see
the
that.
beard.
And the cat ears just set the whole thing off. So
Yeah.
All right. So that being said, Green, would you like to plug your Twitch channel and or anything else?
Let's see here. As I'm plugging my mouth with gelato.
Gelato, pardon us.
My.
I have had.
Please, get it
I'll
right,
go
sir.
into this a little bit later on, but I've had a. I will. I'm willing. So. I've had a rough past week, actually rough past few weeks. I'm hoping to start streaming regularly again this coming Monday at twitch.tv/The Green Bear. I'm going to be I think I'm about ready to start dipping my toes into Cyberpunk now, possibly a few other games as well. There's some things going on with Warframe. That's pretty much my go-to right now. Cyberpunk. I'm also going to be doing some other Cyberpunk genre games. I'm going to be playing the redo of the game Observer, which was one of the final things Rutger Hauer did before he passed away.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
So if you've ever seen Observer, it is a horror-based cyberpunk game, and the new version of it includes a lot of extra footage that was not ready. After the game was originally released, Rutger went back and they filmed some additional content for the game. And this is the full, complete, entire version of the game. Newer ending, new path, just lots of new shit, and I plan to get into it.
Nice. Let me stop you right there for 1 second. For anybody who's played Cyberpunk, have you found the what's the Harrison Ford movie?
Blade Runner.
Have you found the Blade Runner Easter egg in Cyberpunk?
No, but I wasn't looking for it.
there is if you've seen the movie, there is a very obvious Easter egg in Cyberpunk 2077.
Honestly, I would have been disappointed if there wasn't.
Oh yeah,
True,
for sure.
true.
But there is. So you can. I mean, if you want to spoil it for yourself, you can look it up online. I saw it on Reddit. I plan on installing and playing Cyberpunk at some point because it is one of my favorite genres. But I think it's on sale actually. I think it's like 20% off at the moment or something. So,
That's good. Yeah.
All right. I was
yeah,
looking for that then, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I have to give that a look. So Green Bear, so you're getting back into game Twitch streaming then a bit,
Mhm.
or you're going to soon.
Yes, I've been doing a lot of just chatting lately.
Mhm.
I've been there are a couple of things that I've been doing. I've been getting back into learning studying my Japanese. So I've been using a couple of actual games that help you reacclimate yourself since I'm going back to this. It's been over 20 years since I tried to do anything serious with it. So it almost feels like I'm starting over.
Mhm.
So I'm playing this, but it's something that is done in such a way that I can completely relax, take my time, and converse with my viewers.
Nice.
That's good.
So I'm enjoying that, but I've been
Yeah.
craving the return to action.
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
So Warframe,
Definitely.
Cyberpunk, Observer, mainly sticking in the whole Cyberpunk genre of gaming. So
Okay.
that's where I
Well,
am.
now when I eventually buy Cyberpunk, and I will, I can't promise you I will stream it anywhere, but as I get to play it, I will definitely give my thoughts about it. Just because, like I said, I love that genre. I used to read a lot of William Gibson back in the day. Green and I played Cyberpunk extensively back in the day.
Yeah.
Had that campaign going for about 3 years solid.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, dude, we had so much fun, and I've still got all my source books for that game too, and some character sheets I stumbled across not too long ago. So, anyhow, and for all you kids out there, that was like pen and paper RPG, not computer based or anything. So,
OG gaming.
That's right.
yes,
That
OG, that's
absolutely
true.
right.
Yep.
That's true.
Yep.
Yep.
mhm.
So, Pagan Tech, do you want to plug something before we mosey along on this winding path?
Sure, I gave a brief rundown of how you can get in touch with me, but I didn't say where. That would be twitch.tv/Pagantech. Pagantek. And as far as
Excellent.
what I'm doing, well, not playing video games very successfully, that's for sure.
So, do I understand that you need a new video card or another video card, or what's
Yeah.
what's holding you up basically?
Basically, a lot of the games that I really want to stream, which is like Microsoft Flight Sim or
Oh, yeah.
Cyberpunk, or I think the new Elite Dangerous is using DirectX 11, but I'm not absolutely certain. But Star Citizen does, and
Yeah.
they have a specific DirectX call that happens into the upper virtual memory of the card itself, and when it does, it fails, the card times out, and the driver thinks the card's been unplugged.
That's not good.
It's extraordinarily tedious because it only happens after like 20-30 minutes. It's not like immediate crash. Oh no.
Yeah.
Is it gonna crash? Oh, maybe it's not.
No, it crashed.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly.
Well, so is the only way that you can fix that is to just get a different video card? I mean, does it have to be a
It's-
different chipset or what?
No, I don't think it has to be a different chipset. I would like a different chipset because the AMD 6800 XT is looking pretty fat. That's definitely a beastly card for the price. I
Yes.
wouldn't mind trying that because I know all of my driver issues happen in the NVIDIA NVDLL driver, or specific NVIDIA driver. So maybe if I don't have NVIDIA on my system, maybe it won't crash that way. That's the thought.
Maybe.
But I do think that my card is old. It's over 3 years old, and I've used it extensively. I've used it a lot. It also came from the factory overclocked, and there was a couple situations there early on where it got cooked, and I didn't think that there was an issue. I thought the issue was with games, and I got in touch with the manufacturer too late, and they said, sorry.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
Well, yeah.
I used to like Zotac, And Zotac makes a good card, don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
my experience here recently has been their tech support is really not forgiving. If
Less
it's
than
not
optimal.
within the exact specifications of what they design or what they decide, there's no wiggle room. None.
Ah.
What he means, boys and girls, is shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, you could kind of say that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
if
didn't
your
say-
card's 3 year old, if your card's 3 years old anyway, it's probably time to get another one anyway. Quite honestly.
it's a 1080 Ti, so it's a beastly card as it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But it's definitely showing its age. It's getting long in
Yeah.
the tooth, and I think that I would have much better success with a new video card, and that should solve all my woes.
Woes. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that. So you're gonna save
Thank
up
you,
your
sir.
nickels and dimes? Or...
I have the nickels and dimes saved. Where there's
Nice.
nothing on the market. Not unless I want
Yeah,
to
that's true,
spend
too. Yeah.
scalper prices at 3 times the
Yeah.
going MSRP, and I don't know. I'm not
Let me
allowed to do
mortgage
that.
my house to get a new video card.
Yeah, really.
I would if I could, but I've been told no. So
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
yeah,
You're not gonna mortgage the house again.
no. So I know who butters
Yeah.
my bread.
All right. This is a. Well, no, it's not. Never mind.
No, it's not. Not at all.
This is
Not
a
for
family-
children.
yeah,
No.
it's not. No. Okay.
Yeah, I was just
So,
talking about food. I
my
mean,
thought
what are
for-
you talking about? Is you minding the gutter? What the hell?
Buttered bread.
I know,
Duh,
right?
Yeah,
That's
come
bread.
on, man. Jeez.
She does
Yeah,
do the
all
cooking,
right.
so she butters the bread. Yeah, and that's what it is.
So she butters your bread.
She's dying over here in the corner. It's great.
Oh man. We need to have an isolated Christy cam just to see her reactions to the random shit that we talk about.
Oh, the look you got.
Oh, did I get the stink eye?
That's one of them.
Nice.
Okay.
All right. Anyhow, my thought for this week was for each one of us in turn to. Oh, I need to plug my own stuff for a second. I've completely forgotten about the.
Here for like 10, 15 minutes already.
Yeah, I know, right? So anyhow, let me do that real quick, and then we will get on with it. STNradio.com is where you can find Signal to Noise. I broadcast on Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Tuesdays is kind of up in the air right now. I've got another DJ who is officially signed on earlier this evening. So he's going to do a 2-hour show once a week. He's basically just going to record it to MP3, edit it together, and then ship it to me, which is a load off of me because it's, it makes it really easy on me. So all I got to do is hit play, make music, So, I may air his show Tuesday night. So I haven't quite decided where I'm going to fit him in. His show it's all small labels and avant-garde type stuff. A lot of it is not really my cup of tea. Some of it's super cool. Some of it I'm just like, but hey, it's we're format free, so we can play it all. So the more variety we get, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, Wednesdays, Thursdays, we do this kind of stuff. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you can find the full schedule at stnradio.com. You can also, while I'm broadcasting, you can also listen to the show there. There's an FAQ in there. There's a link to where you can donate money. Hint, hint, hint. And
do this, everybody.
Do this.
Do it.
Do it now.
this is what's it? So subliminal message, eh? Give me money.
Donate. Do it.
Donate.
Do it now.
Oh, and I've been doing money. I did some graphics for Wind Up Creations. I just a couple of very basic things. I threw it into Discord. So it's always fun over here. So so stnradio.com, that's me. And it's music, it's format free. It's not 24 hours yet, but I'm working on it. So anyhow, now with the introductions out of the way, we'll just stick on the subject of music. So essentially what I want is for each of us in turn, and I'll go either first or last, I really don't care, either a song or an album or maybe a couple of albums or maybe an era of music from a particular artist or whatnot that really had a profound effect on you personally, or maybe a group of people you hung out with, or so, like maybe a song that just triggers a specific memory or a specific set of memories that even 20 or 30 years on, you still vividly remember. Oh, I remember we were listening to this song when this happened and we were doing this or whatnot. And actually, I'm going to be greedy. I will start. And the reason I bring this up is because I've been trying to bring it up for the last couple weeks and never was able to sort of shoehorn it in. So I'm not going to shoehorn it in. I'm going to set it right down in front of everybody. So one of the things that comes immediately to my mind is the Ozzy Osbourne album, No Rest for the Wicked. Green and I, when we first started hanging out, we would play that record a lot because, well, first of all, it's just a fantastic fucking album. It's Ozzy's 7th release, solo release, something like that. 5th, 6th, 7th. It was early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe late 80s, actually.
Late 80s.
Late 80s. I probably should have looked this up before opening my mouth. But anyway, research. Anyway. But yeah, one of the, and anytime I hear any song off of that album, I immediately think of hanging out at your grandma's house. We were playing it. I think we played it. Did she not have like a big console stereo? Or am I misremembering that? There was a stereo of some sort there.
Now, I had one in the dining room, which is where the big table was, where we used to play D&D and Marvel and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I had at that time, I think it was just after she had passed. So this would have been 90.
Okay.
That I got the album. And we were actually listening to the vinyl, to the LP.
Yeah.
And I had one of those ugly ass cheap stereos from the 70s where it was just 2 block speakers and the turntable, and that was about it. But we played the hell out of that thing.
Yeah, we did. Remember there we go. We discovered a backward track on one of the songs.
I was just going to say that.
Go ahead.
Your mother sells whelps in Harlem.
It made no sense whatsoever because 1988 is when it came out. The year I graduated, so 1988. So yeah, I'm trying to remember.
We kept actually turning that LP backwards.
We would rotate backwards. Yeah.
We were looking for backmasking.
Yeah,
we found it.
Yeah,
but it makes no fucking sense.
Right. It was Blood. I think it's the beginning of Bloodbath in Paradise, which is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first track on the second side. Because at the beginning there's this weird music and you hear and it's all echoey and stuff, and we're like, wait a minute, what the hell? So we stopped it, you put your finger on there and turn it backwards slowly, which is horrible for the needle and the record, might I say. But anyway, your mother sells whelps in Harlem. We're like, well, we found it. What the fuck does that mean?
Your mother sells
Yeah.
But the closest we could find, or we could figure out, was your mother sells whelps, puppies, in Harlem or Arlen or wherever.
Yeah.
It sounds like Harlem.
Arlen, Texas.
Yeah, really. Denton, the home of happiness. Anyway, so anytime I hear any, or I play it on the station, anytime I hear any song off of that record, I'm immediately taken back to hanging out with you at your grandmother's house, and we were just we would listen. We just played the hell out of that record, honestly.
You actually were one of the first people to really bring it up to me that I'd heard about Ozzy's interactions with the religious community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this was the first time that I had actually heard an actual song specifically about a particular person. Miracle Man.
Yeah, Miracle Man. Yeah, it's about Jimmy Swaggart, right? No, not Jimmy. Jim and Tammy Faye Baker.
Oh, we lost his microphone.
Oh, no microphone. No talkie. Please stand by. Green is having technical difficulties.
How about now?
Yes.
Oh,
can
there
hear
we go.
Oh,
Yep,
there we go.
yep,
All right.
Gotcha. Yep.
It just turned off. So anyway,
I think
Miracle Man.
Yes, Miracle Man. Tim and Tim and Jamie. Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. Whew. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
It
because the
should be a
line is
tongue
now
twister.
Jimmy, he got busted.
He got busted with his
with his
pants down.
down.
Yep.
Self-righteous clown.
Yep. So yeah, so that's one of the first things when I thought of this. I thought of this record in conjunction with you, and one of our previous conversations, and I tried to wedge it in there, and there just wasn't really a time for it. I was like, I'll bring it up later. So I said, wait a minute, this can be a whole topic. So now it is. So, so who would like to take the next round?
I'll go.
Okay, go.
I have two distinct pieces of music that would forever change my life.
Okay.
I was raised in Alaska, born and raised in Alaska, and my last 6 years there, well, my entire growing up there, but specifically the last 6 years there, I was associated with a militant Pentecostal school. Yes, it was not stnradio.com. I saw that. Militant Pentecostal school. We were burning books. We were burning records. We were, Motley Crue was satanic. Duran Duran was satanic. That's how bad it was.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It was.
Bizarre, even.
We had fires where we chucked albums in there, and yeah, it was just really bad. So I had very small and select type of music, which was religious chuck wagon style music, and that's about it. And then I went into the Navy.
Mm-hmm. And the world
Yes,
opened up.
it did. I was hearing music I'd never heard before. So the first most impactful thing that I heard was Enigma, MCMXC album.
Yep.
That was mind-blowing. The beat was regular, like a heartbeat, and you could feel that entire song. It sung to me. It was beautiful. And I got transferred to the ship, to the battleship. And on the way there, we stopped at a little place called Bahrain. And in Bahrain, they had a souk, which was the outdoor mall. And that's where everybody sold everything that was counterfeit. That was there. And they had the Enigma album on tape. Somebody had written on there in pen what it was. It was $3.99. I bought that, and I listened to it so much I wore the tape out several times a day, going to sleep while I was working, waxing the deck, stripping it, doing whatever. That was what I was playing. It's pretty much the only piece of music that I had. That whole album, I loved it. It's phenomenal. Got out of the Navy, came down here, met Christy, and got married, and we were sleeping at night. Well, I would play it at night, and there's one track on there that would give her nightmares. So we kind of stopped listening to it, but it's still one of my very near and dear pieces of music. And that kind of opened me up to an alternative form of music rather than here's your big band or your pop 40s, and then here's your entire repertoire of gospel music that you have in your head already.
Right.
This was something unique. I've never heard anything like this before. So I would consider that one of the most impactful pieces or the most impactful albums.
Honestly, before the artist's name is Michael Cretu, Cretu, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's put out a bunch of stuff since then. But I mean, that's where everybody heard him first. He just called himself Enigma. He recorded all this music, and it just blew up.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there was a period of time after that blew up that Gregorian chants got big too, oddly, because that's Gregorian chanting that he placed over over top of the I don't want to say dance beats, but essentially that's what they are.
Yeah. But trance house.
Yeah, trance. Yep, that'd be a good way to put it. House. Yep. So yeah, I mean, you were not unique in that, because that, like, nobody had ever heard anything like that before. People had heard Gregorian chants, people had heard dance music, but he was the first one to go, hey, wait a minute, you know what? Let's push these two things together and see what happens. And it was huge.
That was something totally different. Yeah.
I think I've got the tape in the other room, and I've definitely got all of his CDs in the other room.
Yeah, I've got it on my phone. I also have.
Oh, nice.
I made a mix that took that song, combined it with the last song on the album, Rivers of Belief, and merged it into like a 20-minute super mix, and it just weaves, and it's really nice. Maybe someday I'll post it up in the on the server and let you take a listen to it.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, now I don't know if you guys remember a movie called Sliver. It had Sharon Stone in it. She was living in this big, tall apartment building that they called the Sliver. But there was some. Enigma had contributed a couple of original songs to the soundtrack, and the movie was atrocious. But really, the only reason I wanted to see the movie, because I knew there was Enigma music in there, and I have the soundtrack over there in the soundtrack rack up there. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, he may have put that out on like a greatest hits compilation or something. But I mean,
I think I ended up buying that as a single.
Just the songs.
Just the song itself. I think I bought that as an extended single, single max or whatever it was called. It was like 2 tracks on one side. Maxi single, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, maxi single. Yep. And they had singles, which was a cassette with 1 or 2 songs on both sides. Yeah. Sometimes they had the same song on both sides. Yeah, which was kind of weird.
That was
that's a good one. Yeah.
So the second most impactful piece of music for me, while I was in boot camp, and right after I got out of boot camp, I had enough liquid funds, which was everything that I had, basically. Because I didn't have any bills. I was in the Navy. I had enough money to buy an Amiga. And I got, I want to say it was the 500, and then I got the expansion, the 512K expansion card that what bolted onto the side with a flip switch on the back to give it more RAM. And on there was a piece of music software that was like the precursor to how we understand MIDIs. It was samples that were archived, and then it played back according to the way that it was programmed. They were called mod files. Very cool little stuff. But this program, you could actually go in and edit them. You would load up your sound bank, and then it would play whatever you had. And on there was a transposed piece of sheet music, and it would play in the sheet music. You'd see the notes as it go through.
Oh, yeah.
It was Bach's Fugue in G minor. Very weird little piece, but it was one of the only pieces of software I had, so I sat down and I played it and listened to it, and I found out that this particular piece of music had the same note structure that started at the beginning, and he played it over and over and over again, upscaled, downscaled, backwards, upside down, and it was the same note structure, and it was so mathematically precisely placed in the song, it sounded gorgeous. And each piece would repeat itself, and then it would drop down into a different octave, and it would play itself in a slightly different key, and it would just start weaving amongst itself. And watching this change from music to math to music in real time opened my eyes to classical music and the appreciation of classical music. Not just, oh, this is kind of neat, I'm listening to this, oh, violin's cool. Now I'm actually starting to see the math, see the structure of the entire piece and the way the different pieces of the orchestra fit in to create this entire ensemble where all these different pieces are playing. And I can hear it when I listen to Mozart. I can hear he has this one particular whole portion of the orchestra plays this piece, and then you can hear this going on the bottom, and then you have another piece of the orchestra playing this other piece that's in the middle, and it just weaves like this as it goes through the entire musical piece. all these different math pieces start falling into place. And listening to it now, it's such a far different experience than I did when I was a kid and listening to Dad play it in the back on the records. It was like, oh, he's playing the classical music again. Oh, geez, I'm gonna go outside, climb a tree or something. No, now it's like I'm actually choosing classical music to listen to. Paganini, Mozart, Beethoven, Bach is my favorite. Bach is my favorite because his stuff is so mathematical. It's amazing. He wrote a piece that you can take the entire sheet of music, turn it upside down, and it plays the same.
Wow. That's cool. I did not know that.
And this is how he does his music. It's very mathematically done. And I dig, I'm a science nerd, geek, and I love science and I love math, and this just fits into it because it's tone, music, and math. And I believe, and I kind of think that Green is kind of the same way. I think that because I can understand the patterns of music and feel the patterns of music, that's why I like dubstep. I think Green likes dubstep because he's a percussionist at heart. He is a percussionist that doesn't just use like one or two pieces of percussion. He uses anything that can be beat upon to make music with percussion, and that's how dubstep fits into him, because it's all percussion, but it's done in such a patternistic way that this horrible sounds that would, if they were isolated, you go like, what is this I'm listening to? Suddenly become patterns, repeating patterns, interwoven patterns, and percussion.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I enjoy dubstep to a point, but only from maybe a rhythmic standpoint, because pretty much anything that has good rhythm, good beat to it, I'm kind of a fan of, to be perfectly honest. And stuff like, and I know this is kind of left field, but like Slayer, let's just take Slayer as an example. Slayer has stuff that's super fast, not particularly technical, and not very rhythmic. And they also have stuff that's very rhythmic, that's very technical. Their older stuff is not as technical because, just like anything, if you do it enough, you're going to learn how to do it better, right? So later on in their career, their music got a lot more rhythmic. Now, it was still fast, but it got a lot more rhythmic, and I liked it a lot better than their super early stuff. Like their first album, I think it's Rain in Blood. It's like 26 minutes long or something like that, and there's like 8 songs on there. They're all like, 2.5 minutes of, and then, and that's the whole song, I mean, and, if that's your thing, that's great. But, I'm not as big of a fan of like their album called Seasons in the Abyss, but it's kind of the same thing. You see in their later stuff, you see it's more rhythmic. The drums and the bass and the guitars all play off of each other really well,
I think that's the maturity in the music, where as they get more mature and understand how music works a lot more, then suddenly the maturity of the music, the maturity level of the music, goes up to a much higher level of complexity.
Yeah. And there are people out there who prefer the fast, hard screaming, and that's great. I say it's not my favorite, but music is subjective, and that's why it's so much fun to discuss. I'm not a huge classical guy. My cousin Ryan loves classical music. My uncle Larry loved classical music. I've got plenty of classical music on LP in the other room that I'll play. But for me, it's more background, relaxing, enjoy it from that point of view rather than the nuances of it. I don't get the nuances, I guess, of most classical music.
Well,
and that's just me because I'm not super versed in it.
Yeah, if you're okay with it, I will post a version of the Bach's Fugue in G minor in the Discord channel, and you guys can listen to it. It's only like 2.5 minutes long. It's not very long.
Sure.
And that'll give you a chance to hopefully see or feel a little bit of what I was feeling, and just look for that very first initial portion of the music and look for that throughout the experience and see where it pops in, what instrument it pops in, where it's woven into, what octave it's in, or what chord it's in. It changed chords, and I think it'll be something different.
All right, cool. Yeah, I would love to listen to it. So, Jerry, what do you have to contribute to this? I know you haven't been well. You've been exposed to a lot of different music because of your mom and myself over the years. So what say you?
Well, I can at least say that I'm very thankful that I wasn't brought into like a religious type family or overly religious. At least there wasn't any like the gospel music or all of that. But having been raised on the Beatles, Metallica, and all that kind of stuff, um, well, I I feel like better off is a bit more rude to say, but uh, definitely more opening. I think more more open than what others have been exposed to. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So we, some parents will not let their children hear music if it's subject matter they don't like, or if there's swearing in it or whatnot. And we were never that way with him because you know it's music. It is what it is. If the artist throws a fuck in there at some point, he or she wanted it in there. It was in there for a reason. So that's the piece of music, and that's how it is. So between his mom and I, like you said, Beatles, Metallica, what other, because I know you've obviously picked up on your own bands since then, but what other bands have you picked up from us that you really enjoy?
Oh,
Weezer.
We do like Weezer, actually.
yeah.
That's kind of a joke with my son. He's
Oh.
like, I'm never gonna get laid because I listen to Weezer.
Oh, I don't know
Thanks,
about
son.
Surprise. That's really hard though, honestly. Yeah,
because there's so much.
yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a lot that I've been exposed to early on that I can't really pinpoint one or two things besides Beatles and Metallica and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I mean, and then you latched onto that band called Sabaton.
Oh yes, yeah, I do love my Sabaton. Yes,
Yeah.
that really opened up the doors for my love of history. To be honest, like the more, well, both ancient and more recent history, that kind of stuff. But
Sorry, go ahead.
because they have this topic of the song they want, but they don't make up facts or say something else to make it sound good. It's just they say how it is, and they.
So they are creating songs about very specific events in history.
Yes, correct.
Correct,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the way I was trying to put it. I just
Oh,
Yeah.
Oliver Cromwell, Lord Protector of England, and his what?
yeah.
But I mean, they do music. Their themes run from World War I, World War II, some of the ancient battles of the clans of Scotland. I mean, it runs the gamut.
Their more recent tracks sort of touched on their Swedish roots, like back 500 years ago. When the Swedish Royal Guard was brought into existence and that kind of stuff. So that's really cool, I think.
Yeah, they are Swedish.
Actually, tomorrow.
Yeah.
As of tomorrow, the 7th, they're releasing a new World War II track, Defense of Moscow. That'll be interesting, I think.
Very cool.
Be eager to listen to that.
Awesome.
I will have to check them out.
Yeah,
Definitely,
you should.
yeah.
It's actually really good. Yeah, and it's metal, but it's melodic metal. It's not.
Oh, cool.
It's not thrash or death or anything like that.
Right, yeah. Mhm.
Melodic as in like Nightwish?
Dream Theater?
Yeah, ish. Yeah.
Okay, Dream Theater,
yeah.
all right. Or maybe Marillion?
Not as familiar with Marillion.
Okay.
Um, But yes, Nightwish would be a good analog to them. I'm trying to think of somebody else that they've got kind of a unique sound. The singer has got a unique voice. Um,
Oh, like ACT.
well, no, a good
That's a
voice.
unique voice.
A good voice. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Brian Johnson and Bon Scott for that matter. But they're not. They're no Jeff Tate or Freddie Mercury. So, but yeah, you guys should check them out. We play at least one, if not two, songs on the Forge every Sunday. And I've only got the two.
We only got
albums.
Heroes and Great War, I
The
think.
Great War, yeah. One of their albums is called The Great War, yeah. But yeah, they're really good. You guys would probably both enjoy them a lot. I say it's melodic metal. It's not
That's cool.
thrash or
Good.
death or screamo or anything. So yeah, you'd probably dig it.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, Green. What is on your mind? What is a piece or an album or an era of music that really sort of fires you up or fires off a memory? And it doesn't actually necessarily have to be about any of us. It can just be, anything.
The first time that I heard a piece of music that just so completely enthralled me, I could not look away. I could not stop listening. I was just rooted in my seat in the theater and my frame of mind. And when it stopped, it was like somebody slapped me. I needed more. Was the musical duel at the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind between the mothership and the scientists.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, actually. Yeah, and that's on the soundtrack album too. I've got the soundtrack in the other room. That's a great soundtrack.
That entire album, all of it, that was the first movie I got to go see without my parents, without an adult coming along. It was me and a couple of friends went to see it, and I'm sure they just thought, "Ooh, it's a UFO movie." UFOs did and still do interest me, but that scene, that duel, that duet, just absolutely dominated me for years. That was the first. But the one actual album that, well, there were two. Sacred Heart by Dio.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That was one of the first albums I ever heard where there was clearly and distinctly a spirituality to the music behind it that I resonated with. But the first full album that impacted who I am as a person gets a lot of hate or gets a lot of love. And that is an album by Kiss called The Elder. And that entire album is a spiritual allegory, very beginning opening notes to the dialogue at the end. And it is about someone who, like Simba, is more than they have allowed themselves to believe are. And throughout the entire album, this character, we don't know who he is, he's just called the boy, encounters these different stumbling blocks, these different phases and things, people, and comes out through at the end realizing that he doesn't need your bullshit. He doesn't need your mind control. He doesn't need your crap. He just has to have the nerve and the courage to believe in himself and to stand on his own merits. And those were two big things that, for me, have defined. I don't like when I play City of Heroes, for example, I refuse to make a copycat character. I am not going to make my own Wolverine. I'm going to make my own character that stands completely on his own. My
Because there already
creativ-
is the Wolverine.
Right. My creativity has never failed me. My personal like such as that have never failed. I've always had 120% belief and confidence. Going back to you and No Rest for the Wicked, that was also about the time I finally got my hands on the soundtrack to the original Tron.
Oh yeah.
And I know we played that. I don't remember if you listened to it or not. I didn't know if you were interested in it. But Tron, the movie, the music of Wendy Carlos, really affected me. I think that was. Oh, I'm wrong. Let me back up. When the space shuttle tragedy happened, the first one, the Challenger, that was the first time I had ever seen or heard of Jean-Michel Jarre.
Oh yeah.
Jarre's music, in the same way that the Duel from Close Encounters haunted, so did Jarre's music. And then when I first saw him in concert and I began to really get into his music and what he was doing, he was the first musician. I saw an early interview with him. Oh, and by the way, he's much older than I realized. That dude had already released his first 2 albums before I was born. And
Wow.
he's still releasing new music.
Where did you see him in concert, by the way?
Oh, it was video. I didn't actually
Oh,
go.
okay.
What I did see was when the Challenger happened, he was friends with Ron McNair. And on the Challenger mission, Ron was going to be playing a saxophone. And that saxophone was going to be used on Jarre's next album, Rendezvous.
Oh, very cool.
That would have been the first musical instrument played and recorded in space.
In space, yeah.
Oh.
And then, of course, the shuttle happened, and Jarre came to the States for the funeral. Did not realize he even had a fan base in the U.S. until he got off the plane and it was mobbed by the fans.
Really? Wow.
Oh.
That moved him so much that is the reason why he put on the concert in Houston, was in memory of his friend Ron McNair, who died in the shuttle.
Nice.
Jarre, in an interview, said something to me that was very profound, and I sort of kind of I took piano for several years as a child, and I had already sort of kind of looked at this, and I think as the percussionist in Jarre said he does not look at music as sound. He looks at sound as music. There is a piece he did on the album Zoologology where he recorded rocks of different sizes dropping into water, found where they fit on the musical scale, and played a song of dropping water.
Cool.
That's not what it was called, but
Yeah.
all the keys were just people dropping rocks in water, and it was amazing. Those are my most profound memories that just really changed me, that really affected me both as a musician
Yeah.
and an artist.
Well, I've got a couple of like for example, anytime I hear something off of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, that immediately takes me back to 77 or 78 when it came out, because my parents, they liked disco. They didn't dance, I don't think, or at least my dad didn't, but they liked the music. So that got played a lot in the house. So it takes me back to then. My very first album that was not given to me by my folks was given to me by my cousin at Christmas of 1983, Quiet Riot Mental Health. And that sort of launched me down that path. So that is always that'll always be a big record for me. 1992, me and 4 friends went to New Orleans. We went to Mardi Gras that year.
I remember that.
Yeah, we played, and I actually remember bits and pieces of it. But
A wink.
yeah.
Oh no.
We played the hell out of the first two. No, it might have been just the first Pearl Jam album called 10. We
Love
just,
that
I
album.
mean, like, yeah, I do too. All the way there and all the way back. We just played the hell out of that record. So anytime I think of that record, and I bought that CD because I think I was working at the record store at the time. I bought that right when it came out. So that was a big one. And around the time that Jerry was born, that's when Metallica released Some Kind of Monster. Was that the
You
name
mean
of
the Black Album? No.
Sorry, no. 2003. The name of the album was Saint Anger.
That's what it
Sorry,
was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Saint Anger. Yeah,
Yep.
not their best work, but there are a couple of standout tracks on there. Some Kind of Monster is my favorite song off of that record. Is what I was thinking. But I'll always associate, around the time that he was born with that record because that was the big sort of Metallica thing going on at the time. Was Saint Anger. So those are some of the highlights that just like come immediately to mind. That really just for me it's more particular music triggers memories for me. Because of the way my mind works, I gloss over a lot of things sometimes. But if there was a lot of music being played, like here's another example. When we were out at the pit, when I was living out there with all you guys, one of the Guns N' Roses albums, I think it was Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, were just huge at that particular point in time. I associate those two albums because they came out at the same time with living out there with you guys. It was either that or it was around the time I moved out to the pit. Those two albums were huge and I was listening to them all the time. Of course, working at the record store, there was just, I was just getting so much music like all the time. But those two albums in particular, I remember playing a lot, and I associate it with living out of the pit because I think it was during that time I was either living there or I was in the process of moving out there, and I was spending most of my time out there anyway, regardless of whatever else was going on. I spent a lot of time out there. So.
That's also when you started working at Channel Z.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I
You were living
interned.
at the pit.
Yeah, I interned with Channel Z for like 6 or 8 months. Early mornings, dragging ass out there, getting coffee for the DJ and getting the newspaper because we didn't have computers in the studio, so I had to get the newspapers. So they could get the weather forecasts for the day, get the news highlights and all that stuff. Oh, I don't know. I may have never. Green has probably heard this story before, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So I had been an intern for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe not long. And the guy, John Jenkins, he just called himself John the Morning Guy, but John Jenkins was the DJ's name. And I was his intern. I was his special intern. And we got the record in Creep. The name of the song is Creep. I'm trying to remember.
Radiohead?
Isn't it Radiohead?
Yes, it is Radiohead because I'm a creep. I'm a loser, right? Well, the
Uncensored
actual
version
that's
is
the
nice.
right. No, that's the radio version. The lyric goes, "You're so very special." Well, in the non-radio version, it's "You're so fucking special," right? So
Yeah.
we got this CD in the mail, and he's like, "Oh, we got to get this on the air. This is a new Radiohead." I was like, "Okay." So without looking, he throws it into the CD player, hits play. Now keep in mind, I'd been an intern for a couple weeks, maybe. And you're so fucking special, and the color drained out of his face, and he was just like, and he looks at me, he's like, "What am I supposed to do?" I'm like, "What the fuck are you asking me for? I just get coffee. I don't know." And he's like, and he's looking around. I mean, because it was probably 6:30 in the morning, if that. He was like, I guess I'll just let it play. And every time, the thing, "You're so fucking special," he was just like, "Oh," because you don't want to stop it. That's unprofessional. But you know what? We didn't get one phone call. Now,
Wow.
either people heard it and didn't care, or there was nobody listening. but he didn't get in trouble with the station management or the FCC, so all was well.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah. That I will never ever forget that. That's another thing too. When I hear that piece of music, I immediately think of John Jenkins on that morning show. But that was a fun time. But all right, well, are we well placed for a break, or does anybody have anything on the forefront of their brain that they really need to get out right now?
I'm good for a break.
We good for a break?
Yeah, I think I can do a break.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we shall take a break right here, and we shall be right back.
Time for snacks, bio, and refilling of the water bottle.
Definitely bio. Oh, did you guys happen to hear last week's show? Did you listen to it?
I actually was busy.
All right, and we're back. Thanks for joining us.
We
I'm
are
so stoked
back.
that you could join us as well. We've had a successful break. I got some ice cream. I hope you've had a successful break as well. So, let's
Ice
get
cream.
into this.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
Whatever. I have gelato.
He scoffs at your ice cream with his gelato.
Oh my.
Scoff, scoff, scoff. Bougie.
Up until I think day before yesterday, we had some Klondike bars upstairs, but they did not last long, nor did they suffer. So,
I have a quick story about Klondike Bar.
okay.
When I was living out in California,
Yeah.
a very dear friend of mine lives really. Pardon me, I'm trying to keep my volume. When I was living out in California, a good friend of mine lived in Queen Mary, where we were working at the. And since he was so much closer, I would stay at his place every now and then for like, if it was a night, if it was going to be a long night, and I just didn't want to bother with taking all of my makeup or prosthetics off, I'd leave and just go to his place and crash. Well, this one particular morning, got up, got out of makeup, and this is my friend Bill and John. Bill and I had corrupted Bill into video game, and much to the chagrin of his husband, who was really big into. He was also a big serious video gamer. He played Second Life, so he was a real video gamer.
Right.
Fish,
Yikes.
please.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
So, they invited me to just hang out for the rest of the day, and John had to go to the grocery store. Well, Bill and I really love Klondike mint, the mint flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So, on this grocery list, John wrote Klondike mint bar. Okay. So, John goes to the grocery store, and about maybe 15, 20 minutes later, Bill and I think we were playing like Arkham Asylum, where he was, and we got a call from John. Now, I'm listening to Bill talk to John, and John's asking him, what the fuck did you write down? Bill's penmanship leaves a lot to be desired. And they talked a minute, and John was trying to figure out, what are you talking about? I told you. I wrote it down. Well, he never actually says. So a few minutes later, John comes back, and he looks at me, and he looks at the thing, the list. He looks at John, and he looks at me and says, I want you to read this. What does this say? And I looked at it, and I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know what he'd written. John said, that looks like Kabibble meat bar. What the fuck is a Kabibble meat bar?
It's in the pet food section.
Yeah.
Right? So, for the past, since 2011, our thing is, I like Kabibble meat bars. Because everyone, what would you do for a Kabibble meat bar?
Kabibble meat bar. I have a similar story actually, and it's not even actually my story, but I say it a lot. So you guys remember Mike Swim?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
He and his ex. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say Pagan Tech, Swim, and Mr. Tommy here were the ones who built me my very first gaming PC.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
true, actually. Yeah.
I will never forget him.
So, so Mike and his brother-in-law, who I'm also friends with, were on a trip somewhere. Windows were rolled down, music's playing. Mike says something to Steven. Steven says, "Poop chili hat." and Mike is like, "What? I didn't say poop." He's like, "Yes, you did. They said poop chili hat." So Mike was telling me this story, and I was laughing so hard there were tears squirting down my eyes. I was like, "Poop chili hat." So ever since then, it's poop chili hat. Anytime I talk to Mike, it's poop chili hat. And I brought it up to Steven, and he was roaring. He was like, because Steven does a podcast, plug. Steven does a podcast called The Hold Up with Steven Stoll. And the format is basically he and a friend watch a movie that neither of them either have never ever seen or have not seen in a very long time. So they get together for like an hour or two, bullshit talk about the movie, what they think about the movie, what they are expecting with the movie, what they remember if they've seen it. Then they watch the movie. Then they do a second episode where they talk about how the movie held up, what parts were great, what parts were cringy, this and that and the other thing. So I was on with Steven one time, and after we had stopped recording, I mentioned poop chili hat, and he just fell out. It was really funny. But that's a fun podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to a lot of podcasts. Aside from, the Round Table of Fools, of course.
Yeah.
Did you find out what he actually said?
No, I never did figure out what he actually
Poop
said.
chili hat.
Poop chili hat. That's what he said. As far as I'm concerned, that's what he said. Poop chili hat.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. But oh man, so I know Green has not had the best of weeks this past week. I know Pagan Tech has had a bit of a car issue.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, I don't mean to laugh at your misery, but it's.
Are you aware of this, Green? Do you know what? Okay.
I've been pretty much in my own world and nowhere else.
A world of pain.
Pain. I drive the Volkswagen bus. That is my daily driver because the son can't drive a stick, and I'm not going to trust him with my bus. No. No. So he goes over to his grandma's on Sunday to take care of the yard, and I get this text from her. She says, "You need to come over. Your son is having a meltdown." I said, "Oh, what's going on?" And he sends me a text, and he says, "Oh, fuck." Now, the son doesn't swear. I said, "What is wrong?" Because that's the rule. Don't have a problem with swearing. Usually got to have a reason to swear. If you drop a hammer on your toe and you break your toe, a fuck coming out of your face is fine. I'm okay with that. Probably deserves it.
I hear Christy cackling in the background. That's great.
He just walked into the room. So I get this.
Oh, okay.
I get this picture of the door of the minivan is crooked and has a big wrinkle in the side of it. And so I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go over there." I take a look, and where are you running to? I take a look and figure out what happened. He has backed up with the door open, hit one of the steel posts that is on the railing, and folds the door backwards to the front of the car, bends the frame, wrinkles the front corner panel, the door. You can't close the door because it's hitting the frame. And so Monday morning we take it to the body shop. He's driving it down the road. You can't close the door. So I'm in the front with the emergency blinkers on, His grandma's in the back with emergency blinkers on. He's in the middle driving with the door, with him holding the door like this because he can't close the door. It's been a rough week for cars. Hey, you're
Was
right
it
there, buddy?
like a?
You're right there, buddy. What's this look for?
My arm hurt really badly.
Oh, I can imagine.
It was an exercise getting to the shop.
Exercise is right. So, this was a learning experience? What did you learn?
Yes, lesson learned.
Don't be an idiot.
There you go. That's number one lesson. He's got
Well,
it.
I mean, that's just a general good. It's just a good rule for life, quite honestly.
Yeah, true. What else did you learn?
Don't go in reverse with the door open.
Close the door.
There you go. Close the door when you're driving.
Just close it.
Yeah, just close
All
it.
right.
So yeah,
So
bad week
you
for
guys-
cars.
you guys know the crew that I used to hang out with all the time, Chris Bailey and Stevie and all them. So we came up with 3 rules of life. Don't do shit that isn't cool.
Yeah.
Never lick your palms.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when fighting the elderly, always shoot for the hip.
I love it.
3
That's
rules
good rules.
of life.
Good rules.
Courtesy of the Bendovaho tribe. We might have been drunk when we came up with it. I'm not sure. There might have been other things going on. I can't say.
Yeah.
I have to plead the fifth on that part of the story. But anyway,
a long time
I've had
ago.
a okay week. It was a long time ago. Yes, it was.
Many different chemicals. ago.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about,
No,
sir.
no idea.
Officially. No. But it's been just basically a typical work week for me. Like I said, I just out of the blue, an old manager of mine actually from my Ipswich days messaged me over Messenger, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. We were talking, and I guess he had tuned into STN a couple times,
Oh, cool.
and he's got let's say an eclectic taste in music, and he wants to do a show. He used to do a local show. He would same thing he's going to do for me. He would record an hour or two, put promos in wherever and edit it down and then send it. So he's going to do that for me. So that's going to be probably, he said he's going to do 2 hours a week and once a week basically. And I'm fine with that because it gives me more content. It gives him, he loves music, so it gives him something to do, regarding music. And I'll have the MP3 and so I can rebroadcast it if I need to. So that's going to be, I've got an hour from him. I'll probably air that, but I think the 2 hour shows are probably going to start next week. And what, my memory is just shot. Let me see. Plus I got so much going on. The John Peel Model is going to be the name of the show. So John Peel was a very famous DJ in the UK, and his thing was he would discover all these indie bands, all these small bands that nobody had ever heard of, and give him exposure. Some really good stuff. And he did that for like 40 years, and he passed away several years ago. He apparently had a whole other house on his property full of LPs and CDs and tapes throughout the years from people
Wow.
just, submitting music for him to play on his show because his show was very influential. Now, we didn't get it over here. The only reason, his name's Michael. The only reason Michael was able to listen to it is obviously because of the internet, because they would air the shows on one of the BBCs. I don't know which one. But they would air the show on one of the BBCs, and he would catch it, on the either on the rebroadcast or I guess on the internet somehow. And he recorded a few of them, and he gave me a couple. And I actually have, I don't know, a handful of songs from these just really super obscure UK bands that I'll play every now and then on the radio or on the show. But yeah, so his show's going to be starting up. I think next week, like in earnest. We'll and I'm still sort of tweaking the schedule a little bit too, because I was doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but I didn't have anybody listening on Tuesday. So I think I'm going to just concentrate on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but maybe on Tuesdays, maybe I'll play his show on Tuesday or something. I haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll rebroadcast this show on Tuesday. I don't know. I did discover, I think Phil, I think Pagan Tech's camera is frozen.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And he's awfully quiet.
Oh,
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
That's
now
just
he's
a
back.
thing.
Now he's back. Okay, he's back. But yeah, so I think he's gonna start in next week. So I'm still tweaking the schedule a little bit. So we'll see. I'll always update the website as soon as I can. And I've started, like I said, producing some graphics for our burgeoning network here.
That's
So,
cool. Yeah, I saw the
Yeah.
graphics you posted earlier. They look really good.
Yeah.
And that's that
Well-
key that you were talking about.
Yeah, super simple, but I say I'm not a whiz with like Photoshop or anything, but I can do simple stuff. I can make simple logos, and I enjoy doing it. So.
Yeah, I'll see if I can take some time during lunch tomorrow and see if I can throw some font work at it.
All right,
Likewise.
yeah.
I meant
Okay.
to do it myself, but been kind of out of sorts. the past
Yeah.
A little out of sorts. Yeah, definitely.
Just a wee
Oh,
bit.
yeah. Oh, so check this out. There is it's the oldest residence in Pennsylvania is here in Pittsburgh somewhere. I don't remember the neighborhood. On the National Register of Historic Places, blah, blah, blah. But what they have done is they've refurbished the whole thing and they've turned it into a pub. And they serve, I guess it's a Scottish themed pub. So Scotch eggs, that sort of thing. So us and another couple that we know that live not too far
Haggis.
from here.
Yeah,
They may actually do. I've had haggis before.
it's
It's-
all right. It's a thing.
Yeah. I mean, if it's done well, it's pretty good. I mean, it's revolting, but I mean, if it's done right, it tastes.
I
good.
mean, tripe's kind of the same way.
But yeah, true. But so I'm gonna probably throw on a kilt, and I think the four of us are gonna go over to this pub one of these nights, so that'll be pretty fun.
Nice.
Hoser, go back
Yes.
to the part one of this cast. Talking about songs that bring back memories.
Okay, yeah.
I can say two words, and I'm quite sure these two words will bring back a plethora of memories.
All right.
Rocky Horror.
Oh man. Oh yeah. I started going to Rocky Horror. When I started going to Rocky Horror, I was 16 because I was working at Winn-Dixie, and Steve would go, and sometimes he'd drag a couple of the other Winn-Dixie people along with him. And Steve and I were getting to be pretty good friends, and he invited me out to this thing, and I was like, yeah, sure. And of course, my mom, being my mom, was like, oh, midnight movie, blah blah blah. I was like, yeah, it's like, want to go with Steve? Okay. So I got as far as I remember, I got the full virgin treatment while I was there for my first night, of course. Probably doing no small part, the guy with the green hat there, but I was hooked. I was hooked after that. I mean, I've seen it. I don't even know how many times I've seen the movie, to be perfectly honest. And they show Rocky here in Pittsburgh at the Hollywood Theater at least they did before the pandemic. I think they're going to start it up again. Every other Saturday, they show Rocky at the Hollywood Theater in the Dormont neighborhood here. And
Oh,
the
sure,
name,
Colin.
yeah, the name of the troupe is, what do they call themselves? I've got it. I follow them on Facebook. I know they say they haven't been super active because obviously the theater's been closed down. But anyway, they have a whole troupe there and everything. And have either of you guys seen the movie The Perks of Being a Wallflower?
No.
No, but I want to.
It's a great movie, A, but B, part of the storyline involves the characters. They are in the troupe for a troupe for the Rocky Horror Picture Show, right? So they're in Rocky in a couple scenes in this movie. It was filmed at the Hollywood Theater here in Pittsburgh because the movie takes place in Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow.
Not only that, but at the time it was she, now it's he. So a dude I worked with at the time was in and still is in the troop, in the Rocky troop. And she at the time was way off in the background, and one of the because they let him in for free, and they got to be extras essentially for because they all knew the lines and all that stuff. They all knew what to yell. So yeah, that was pretty cool though. And I've gone over there, a handful of times. I'm not I'm not twice a month or anything. But back when I was going regularly in Augusta, it was every weekend I would do there on a Saturday. It was a Saturday night, I think it was the big night, and I would go almost every Saturday if I didn't have to work or something. Yeah.
For years, it was Friday and
Saturday. I remember that. Yeah. And one of the good things about working at a grocery store is, I need to get a whole 5-pound bag of rice, or oh, look at this, 15 loaves of bread are going to get thrown out because they're out of date. I wonder what we can use those for.
Yeah.
That was how I met you. Was at Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
I met you at Rocky Horror, and there was a couple of us who were wondering how are people getting so much bread? Where is all this fucking rice coming from?
Yeah. Steve and I would bring in literally grocery bags of expired bread into this thing, and just
Did you?
I distinctly remember Steve taking the twisty off of one end of a loaf of bread and just hucking the whole thing just out of the bag, just zhoosh, and just like this. Oh my God. Who I feel bad for is the people that had to clean all that shit up when we were done. That's who I feel bad for.
Towards the end of its run, there were a few of us, me included, that actually would stick around and help because we knew we were making this.
Oh yeah. Well, think about it. You got bread all over the place. You got rice all over the place, and you got people shooting water all over the place.
Ooh,
think about that mess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But do you remember? The guy's name was Troy. He was dressed in a black trench coat. He had a water tank on his back and had hoses going through the tank and out through his wrists like Spider-Man web shooter. And when it was time for the rain, exactly, he would stand in the back of the theater and just open up and just spray the entire theater. It was so much pressure, and it was a tank he made. And he would wear this big black motorcycle helmet. It was just this big black figure.
He was the big dude too, as I recall.
Yes. Big dude.
And I had the water gun I had was one of those battery operated. It looked like an Uzi, and the clip that you would stick in there was actually the water tank. So you'd stick it in there, and it didn't hold a lot of water, but it looked really cool. So
And this was pre-Super Soaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. We and then I was telling this story not too long ago. One night we were getting ready to go to Rocky, and Steve was like, "Let's go to the other theater tonight." I was like, "Well, why?" He's like, "I want to watch The Lost Boys." I was like, "Okay." So instead of going to Rocky that night, they were showing midnight showing of The Lost Boys in the other theater. I think it was a 3-screen or a 2. I don't remember.
It was a 3-screen. Rocky was always in the middle.
Yeah, that's right.
They would play like demons on one side to the left often, and then they would play they'd play a horror movie to the left.
Yeah.
The right was always something more poppy, like
well, the one night was The Lost Boys. So that's the first time I ever saw The Lost Boys, was at the midnight showing at the Regency Mall Cinemas. So that was cool. Yeah, and I've been a fan of The Lost Boys ever since. But
Regency Mall. Wow,
and
that was a
Regency Mall. Yep. There was a little three cinema theater over there. But and getting back to music, the soundtrack to The Lost Boys, fantastic. The soundtrack for Rocky Horror, fantastic as well. Awesome music. And I've actually got on LP. I've got the audience participation album. I've got the stage soundtrack, and I've got the movie soundtrack for Rocky Horror. The Rocky Horror Show, and then the Rocky Horror Picture Show was the movie. So and check this out. Not Tim Curry. Barry Bostwick was at a Steel City Con a while back, and I got him to autograph the front of my Rocky Horror Picture Show soundtrack.
Very cool. I'm jealous.
Yeah. He was a super nice dude too. I mean, he didn't have like hordes of people at his table. He had people visiting him, but there wasn't the line like say for William Shatner, for example, whose
Oh,
autograph
yeah.
I got at the same convention. But Barry Bostwick, he was super cool. Somebody brought a huge pair of tidy whities. Literally, like they were. I don't even know where you would get a gigantic fucking pair of pants, underpants like this. A huge pair of
World.
tidy whities. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Adult
And
Mart.
and he happily he got a huge laugh at it and signed him for whoever wanted the huge tidy whitey signed. But he was actually really nice, and he was just sitting there talking to people as he was signing stuff. So, because a lot of those celebrities are, I don't know that they don't want to be there, but sometimes they're not as personable as you would think in those
Yeah.
situations. But he was just hanging out, having a good time, signing, talking to people as they came up. So
That's cool.
he was really nice. Yeah, he was cool. And Shatner, you get like 10 seconds with Shatner because he's got 15 bajillion people lined up to see him at any convention he goes to. So, and another and this is something that is it's weird to me. So remember back in the day when we started going to conventions seriously, 1987, 1988, 1989, you always had the celebrities behind their table, celebrity row or whatever you want to call it. You always had, or they'd go to a particular room and you'd line up and wait, get signatures. You could take pictures with them and all. It didn't cost you any money. They always had their like 8x10 glossies out, so where you could pick up one of those and they would, give them $8 for it or whatever, and they'd sign it for you or whatever. Or you could bring like a poster or a magazine or whatever and have them sign it, and they were always happy to do it. Now it like costs money for them to sign anything, and sometimes they will only sign stuff that like, this person's only going to sign this 8x10, and it costs X number of dollars. And I don't remember how much I paid for Shatner's autograph. But it was cool. He would sign basically anything. They weren't just limiting. So I took my special edition Star Trek II soundtrack, and he signed the front of that. And he's like, "Oh, well, I haven't seen that before." I was like, "Oh yeah, it just came out not too long ago." And the vinyl actually, I might have to get it. The vinyl actually looks like the Nebula from the movie. They did a really cool vinyl. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, that's one of the things that I've really missed about during the pandemic. Now, I'm not going to say that I've been going to 2 or 3 or 4 conventions a year, because I haven't. But like Pennsic, which took over for me anyway, from going to Dragon Con, because in 2001 was my first Pennsic, 2000 was my last Dragon Con. Because they fall really close together, and it's just prohibitively expensive for me to do both. Pennsic is 45 minutes away, so that's where I go. But and even when I was living down there, I don't know, maybe I just got burned out on doing like the sci-fi fantasy conventions. But in any case, Pennsic was canceled last year. It's been canceled this year. Dragon Con was canceled last year. They're still up in the air about it this year. But like Steel City Con, they do 2 or 3 Steel City Cons throughout the year here. They've all been postponed. So I miss going to, and Steel City Con it's cool. The dealer's room is huge and diverse. And it's a fun convention, but it's not the convention like Green, you were probably thinking, like held in a hotel. Everybody's there. They've got, the dealer's room over here. They've got guests over here. It's all just sort of munged together in a convention center. So they've got like the celebrity section. They've got like the artist's row. They've got the dealer's room. But the dealer's room is sort of the main draw, honestly. Whereas in like Southern conventions like we're used to, it's more of a whole experience with, obviously the dealer's room, the artist room, but they also, you got the parties to go to at night. You got the all-night video rooms. You got the all-night anime rooms, and the all-night anime room is where I discovered, and I think Green, you did as well, Akira. The first time I saw Akira was at an all-night anime room at probably Fantasy Fair or something.
The first time I saw, I'm going to be snob here, Akira.
Oh, sorry.
was
You and your Akira and your gelato.
That gelato.
first time I saw Akira. I think Akira sounds cool. First time I saw Akira was at Dragon Con, and I think it was my first one.
May have been.
And I saw it in the main projection, the main movie. So I saw it like up on a big screen,
Oh, right.
and it was the kind with the different colored subtitles. So like if it's red, then it's playing in the background. If it's yellow, then that's what the signs say, and if it's white, that's what's
wow.
being spoken.
What's being spoken? Okay, yeah.
And that was my first real exposure to anime.
I think maybe we were at the same one because it wasn't like they had a huge screen at the front. They had it was like in a ballroom almost, but it was like a big video room, right?
This was
Now,
like a full movie screen size.
yeah. That might have been Dragon Con actually. So do you remember sitting around waiting for something to happen? I don't know if they were doing the costume contest or maybe we're waiting for a movie to start. I don't remember. But they played the Duck Dodgers cartoon. And there were several hundred people in this theater, right? Or in this ballroom, I should say. And we were waiting around for something to happen. I don't know, like you say, I don't remember if we were waiting for the costume contest to start or I don't know. But anyway, they're like, well, we're gonna, we're having some trouble, blah, blah, blah. We're gonna play a cartoon for you. Well, Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century they played, right? So we're sitting there and having a good time, and and it's like, oh, cartoons. Daffy,
I know where you're going.
Yeah, Daffy at one point, he says, and it's because of, and he goes, Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century. And I'll be damned if everybody in that damn place, like 300 or 400 people didn't stand up and shout that at the same time. It was like the coolest thing ever.
Nice. That is really
awesome,
cool.
Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah. It was just one of those things where you don't get that sort of thing generally in your day-to-day life. I mean, it was just so cool. Oops.
Here's I love when that happens. It's one of the reasons why I like going to big movie releases on opening day if I can get there. This happened to me when I saw the very first Transformers, not the animated one, live one, the Bay movie.
Yeah.
There is the scene. I'm going to end up choking up when I say this. Powerful scene. It's the scene where you first see Optimus Prime in his protoform before he becomes the truck. But you see this bipedal figure start to turn away from the camera, and as it happens, the big Peterbilt truck runs past.
The semi rolls by,
yeah. And when it passes, you can see the truck. You can see Optimus forming himself and coming. When that happened, the whole goddamn audience stood up and just went
wow.
fucking crazy.
Awesome, yeah.
Except for my friend who I went all he knew was Transformers was a children's cartoon. So he's probably not gonna like it. That was his opinion. When that happened, the whole theater stood up. His eyes lit up like silver dollars. They were just huge. And he was just still sitting, and he looked up at me, and with the most serious tone and look on his face, he said, "Please explain to me the significance of what I'm seeing. What just happened?"
Yeah.
And I said, "We'll talk about it later."
That's why I like going to opening nights too, because you know that the people that are at that movie, by and large, are fans of whatever the franchise is, and they're into it, and they want to see these things.
They are your people.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a great way to put it.
Exactly. Yep. That's one of the reasons I loved going to convention, and I still do. Whether it's Pennsic or a Dragon Con or even like a Steel City Con, that, like you said, those are your people. And I don't want to be a gatekeeper here, and I'm trying my best not to be, but pop culture, like comic book culture and gaming culture, is so widespread now. When we started going, it was not widespread. We were the outcasts. We were the weirdos. We were the outliers,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and everybody else has caught up with us. And, you know, good, bad, and different. I don't know. I guess it depends on your point of view. But I like this dude I work with. He's 23. He was born the year after I got married. So, he's not been around the block much, Nice guy. I got nothing bad to say about him. But he's, this comic book movie, and he's trying to explain to me all this back. I'm like, yeah, dude, I know. I was there. I know. I know. And then he tried to talk to me about music. I'm like, all right,
I was
you
there
gotta
when the
sit
magic
down.
was written.
That's right. Like, all right, you got to sit down when we start talking about music, because I will be lecturing you from now on about music. You don't get to talk to me about music. But anyway, and again, I don't want to be a gatekeeper about this, and I try my hardest not to be, because people like what they like, and that's a good thing. If these things take your mind off of your everyday grind, whatever that grind is, so much the better. I mean, I'm not one to tell people what to like and what not to like.
Yeah.
I only have one comment on the whole people like what they like.
Yeah.
There's this expression floating around in the same vein. The heart wants what the heart wants. You know what? So does a 4-year-old, until a smart mom and dad says, get your hand out of the damn cookie jar. No,
True.
you can't have cake for breakfast.
Right.
That
Yeah,
stove
that's a good
is
point.
hot.
That's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel about
Yeah.
that, about things like that.
Yeah.
I don't mind if I'm glad that you've taken interest, you being ostensibly whoever.
Right.
I'm glad that you like this. I don't think you're going to get quite the fulfillment from it in the same way that we did. Because at that time, that was catered for very specific fans, very specific demographics and people. And now it feels almost watered, because now it's being catered to everyone.
Yeah. Well, just think about this aspect. And I think about this a lot because Patty has a good friend who's also quite young. She's super cool and her husband's super cool, but they're quite young. They're all about the anime, big into anime, right? And I've never been a huge anime guy. I mean, I don't dislike it, but I've never really gotten sucked in by it, right? But think about now compared to, like, let's say 1990. There wasn't all the streaming, there wasn't all the DVDs. Anime was hard to get your hands on,
Black
and
market.
a lot of times if you did, it was a VHS tape that it was a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and it was grainy and shitty, or it was just straight Japanese, no subtitles or nothing, so you just kind of had to make it up, figure out what was going on. There was manga out in the comic stores, but there wasn't a lot of it. It was manga was hard to find too. You couldn't just go out to Walden Books and buy it. You really had to dig around for it, or if you knew somebody in Japan, have it shipped over, or if you went to a specialty shop in like New York City, you could maybe find some. But like for Podunk, Augusta, Georgia, it just wasn't available unless you went to a convention.
Exchange.
We had Book Exchange, and that was it. Yeah. And they didn't carry manga back then.
No, they carried 1 or 2 titles.
Yeah.
That was all.
Right.
They like Battleship Yamato, and a couple of like Bubblegum Crisis, and that was really about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was there, but there was not a lot of
Right.
variety.
So you really had to see if you got into it, you really had to work. You really had to seek it out. You had to go to the conventions. You had to look in the nooks and crannies of the shops to find this stuff. And now, and again, I guess, good for you, but all this stuff is at your fingertips. You fire up your TV, open up an app, and all the anime you ever want right there at your fingertips. You go to any bookstore, not even just like a comic store. If you have a bookstore, there's going to be there's the manga titles, it's everywhere.
And most of them are available on your phone.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah.
Things like Crunchyroll, and then even Marvel and DC have got things where you can read all their past comics from all over the years.
Yeah.
Just pull it right up and
Yep. Right up on your phone or right up on your tablet. Yep.
That's true.
And I must admit, I envy that,
Yeah.
because had that been around when we were that age, I'd have been all about that.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
so much. I mean, now, at the time, we're talking 90. The actual original game, going back to Cyberpunk, the original tabletop Cyberpunk actually came out. It was either 88 or 89, but we didn't get it here in Augusta until about 89 or 90.
Yeah.
And I got the first edition when it came out, and that was in 89. Or when it came to Augusta, I got it from the Book Exchange. And then, of course, when Cyberpunk 2020, arguably second edition, came out, I was all over that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was the first time I had heard the term cyberpunk. And it was the first time I'd actually seen an example of what that genre is. And now, over the years, looking back on everything from Akira to even Dirty Pair,
Oh, Dirty
they
Pair.
were
Yeah.
loving so much anime. Even some of their parodies were so cyberpunk. I envy that crowds today can get it so easily. I
Easily,
wish I
yeah.
had that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wish I'd been
Oh,
able to
yeah.
do it at the time.
Along those same lines, but not quite the same. Let me get your opinion on this. I go around and around about this with people a lot. So the term cosplay, I'm beginning to hate it
Yeah.
because
You have not liked it for a long time.
no, I haven't. And this is just my opinion, and I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be wrong. Play, the costume. Oops, sorry, let me move that out of the way. Costume play. Put those together, you get cosplay. Play is a verb. It's something you do. It is an action. Costume is a noun. It's a person, place, or thing, right? So when you build your wings, you craft all your armor, you buy your jumpsuit and put your patches on. In my opinion, you're not building a cosplay, you are making a costume.
Correct.
Now, when you go out into a convention, let's say, and you're posing with people and you're doing this and you're doing that, fine. That's cosplay because you're actually doing anything or doing something. People just use cosplay as a generic term for creating costumes. And it just drives me up the wall. And I don't know why. It's grammatically incorrect, but most people don't care about that anymore. It just drives me insane. Because like, oh, look at my cosplay. I'm looking at your costume and it's really well done.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
I'm with you 100%. And that's one of the things that, because Ayla was heavy into that, into the whole cosplay experience. And she dragged me to a Gamacon in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
And it was okay. I had fun taking pictures and stuff. But I didn't really have the passion for what they were going after, which was the sinking themselves that far into their peers and their characters. Because I've never had an experience like that. Growing up, I've hinted a little bit and told you a little bit about growing up in Alaska. It was so isolated. I didn't know 90% of the stuff that was out there until I got in the Navy. Like, well, I had the militant Pentecostal experience, which was during my formative years. And then before that, it was like on the homestead. I mean, literally, Dad staked out 40 acres in the middle of Alaska, and we would go up there on the weekends and live in the cabin with no electricity. We had a 12-volt battery and a radio.
I've seen that cabin.
Yeah, and a radio that was hooked up. We could listen to Dr. Demento in Fairbanks. That was like 110 miles away. We'd pick up on the antenna that we stuck out of the roof, and I would record that. That was my only mechanism for anything that was anything out of 50s and 60s or classical music, because that's all we had. That log cabin, and that's it.
Pagan Tech, I grew up on a farm in West Virginia, out in the hills, an hour from anywhere. and that sounds horrible to me.
Well, at the time it was life, so I didn't have a horrible.
Yeah, well, true.
Or not,
Yeah, yeah.
It was just
You didn't
the way
have
it was.
there was no other frame of reference. It's
Right.
just it was what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I got into the Navy, right out of the high school experience and that militant Pentecostal, I got into the Navy. It was a culture shock because suddenly
yeah.
I'm learning about this modern music that I've never heard before. Paula Abdul, who the hell is this? Madonna person? What is that? It's the mother of Christ, isn't it? You know, I'm really not exposed to anything that I'm suddenly thrust into in the Navy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that the Navy experience was very, what's a good term for
Eye-opening?
it? No, it's not eye-opening. It was very mainstream.
Yeah.
There wasn't any exposure to any alternate thoughts or theories or anything like that. The closest I got was I found a couple of guys on the ship who introduced me to RPG, specifically
Oh, cool.
Rifts.
Okay.
Now I never got into
Rift,
D&D because of the brainwashing that I had growing up, because D&D was satanic. I've
of
never
course.
really got into the whole swords and sorceries anyways, so it wasn't really my game. But Dungeons and Dragons, I mean, that was the big RPG, but I just could not get into it because it was like, it would just it would make
Yeah.
my skin crawl, because that's how I've been programmed for so long.
Yeah.
Rifts I could do because it was sciencey and had a little bit
Yeah,
of
science
mystic in it.
fiction.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
So we did that, and that was my first exposure to alternate, to something an alternate thought.
Well, when I bought my first comic book, I was probably 11 or 12, and it was a G.I. Joe comic. And because the reason I grabbed it was because when I was younger, I'd had one of the 12-inch or whatever, 11-inch G.I. Joes, right? And that was like my favorite toy ever. And I was like, oh, cool, G.I. Joe comic book. So then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I love comic books. So I started collecting G.I. Joe, and of course that led to this and that led to that, and pretty soon I'm a comic book collector. When we moved down south with actual like comic book shops, because living up in the sticks in West Virginia, there wasn't any comic book shops around anywhere, wasn't any music stores around, so we moved to the big city, relatively speaking. And suddenly it's comics and gaming. And I mean, literally about a month after we moved down south, I met a kid, and he's like, oh, here, I've got an extra copy of this you can have. And it was Dungeons and Dragons, second or third edition or whatever, the classic hardback, player's handbook. At which my mom was not thrilled about, by the way, because Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
No, she wasn't thrilled about that at all. But anyway, so yeah, once I got down here, and then and I was collecting comic books, and love Star Trek, started collecting. Then I went to my first convention, and it's just like you said, oh man, okay, these are my people, because
Right.
you could stand in any random line, and if you're standing in line to get Jeanette Goldstein's autograph from Aliens, everybody in that line is going to be a fan of either hers and or the movie that she was in. Strike up an easy conversation. Randomly walking through, and that's, to me, that was the weird thing. You're randomly walking through, and somebody's like, oh, I dig your t-shirt, oh man, what a cool costume, well, this and that, because I hadn't really experienced anything like that before. It was just like, oh well, thanks, random stranger in a, and off they went. It was just, it didn't freak me out. It just took me a while to get used to, because it was just not anything that I had experienced really. And a buddy of mine who has since passed away here in Pittsburgh, he was all about the local music scene. Even to the day he died, he was all about the local music scene, the punk shows, the the death metal shows that would come through. And he was just dumbfounded that I had never done this stuff when I was a kid. I was like, okay, well, let's take into consideration I grew up in the hills in West Virginia, moved to Augusta, which, let's be honest, not a lot of punk shows coming through town, not a lot of metal shows coming through town, so, and then, when I got to a certain age, of course, we would go to Atlanta or Columbia or Charlotte to see the big shows. But I didn't, because he lived in the city, so he could hop a bus, go down to the Civic Arena and see the big shows, or hop a bus or walk down the block and go to one of the little, hole in the wall venues and see these punk shows that would come through, and see, he got to meet Metallica when they played, when they were just like nobodies. They were opening for somebody and they were hanging out, and Jamie was like, hey, how are you guys doing? Got to hang out with them and all this stuff. I didn't have those experiences because it just wasn't, like you said, just wasn't in my wheelhouse, wasn't in my, it wasn't the environment that I grew up in, But I mean, and that's part of the fun of it too. When you gather a lot of the clans, whether your fandom is anime or whether your fandom is Transformers or whether your fandom is whatever it is, you can hang out and you can talk shop with these people, and that in most cases, excuse me, they're going to have, if not an opinion on it, they're going to know what you're talking about and be able to converse with you in that language.
That's cool.
Which is just awesome.
Yeah, I think at GamaCon when I went there in Atlanta, it was very anime heavy.
I think it's like strictly an anime con.
Yeah, so and that's not something that
Yeah.
I've never really delved into, never really found a fascination with. So I was also the dad, the third wheel of Ayla, of the daughter and a couple of her friends, and we're bouncing boing 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 boing, and they're, I don't know what did they dress up that year as. I don't know, something stupid.
Yeah.
But it was meaningful for them, but I didn't really.
Right.
I wasn't impressed because she was just sinking so much of her energy into it. It was a little overwhelming. And it was fine because it's just like anything else. You go through a phase and suddenly you're not doing Attack on Titan every day. But it was so anime heavy that I didn't really have a point of reference. Every now and then I'd see some Doctor Who roll through, and I'd strike up a conversation with them and take a picture and things like that. But really, it was just so anime heavy, and there was boards that were anime and panels that anime, and I'm like, okay, where's my phone?
I had a very, very similar experience at Steel City Con. A friend of mine lives up here. His name's JJ. He's got his own, it's called Mega Road Toys or something like that. It's all imported Japanese anime toys. He goes to Japan 2, 3, 4 times a year, shops these things, talks to distributors, blah, blah, blah. And he gets all these shipments directly from Japan, like all the time. So he goes to conventions like all over, from Atlanta all the way up to like New York. I mean, like the Eastern Seaboard. That's like what he does, right? So the little local convention is a no-brainer for him because it doesn't cost him anything to travel there. It costs him the cost of the table to set up. And then other than that, it's all profit because, I mean, he's only got to travel like a half an hour to get to the venue. So he was like, hey, I'm going to be at Steel City Con all weekend. Do you want to, I'll pay, do you want to help, babysit the booth? I'm like, yeah, sure. That's fine. So I went over there now, and again, all of his stuff, it's completely anime. And I'd get these, first of all, the people watching is hilarious, but I get these kids. I don't want to say kids, they're younger than me, but kids mostly.
Kids.
Hey, do you guys have the blah, blah, yakety, schmackety, this, that? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I was like, you're going to have to talk to that guy over there. I'm just here to make sure you don't steal anything. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I mean,
I'm the hired
honestly,
muscle.
Yeah. He was like, well, I'm like, look, I will never retain all of this. So there's no point in trying to regale me with all this because I will never remember it ever. I'll just keep an eye out. If I have questions, if they have questions, I will refer them to you. If I have questions, I will ask you.
This is the 5th edition. It's very special because it actually was pressed with a camel toe.
Yeah.
And
I mean, and on that note, but they had like, the big thing was these belts. Like it looked like a WWE, like a wrestling belt. That was like the hot thing then. I'm like, I just, again, not my demographic, but I don't get it.
Right.
Maybe I'm just the old guy and I just don't get it, which is fine. But it like you said though, you'd get the old school Star Trek, costumes wandering by. You're like, oh, cool. You'd strike up a conversation with them.
Don't die.
yeah. You'd see a cool, yeah, really see a cool Star Wars, costume here and there. Oh, nice lightsaber, blah blah blah. So you got to see sort of the bulk of people wandering by. At least if you're in one place, you get to watch people wander by, and you can pick out, oh, nice costume, this and that and the other thing. Hey, you need to have more clothes on. Hey, you need to have less clothes on. That sort of thing. But yeah, that's one of the big things, because I love going to Pennsic. As you guys know, the swords and sorcery fantasy that I'm all about, medieval England, essentially. I love it. But I've missed doing that, because actually I was going to skip Pennsic last year, and I was going to go to Dragon Con. I was gonna room with Pat and his wife, and about about 2 months into the pandemic, I get a call, and it's Pat. I'm like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" He's like, we're kind of on the fence about going, traveling, this and that." I'm like, "Yeah, me too." And then like 2 weeks later, it's like, death, destruction, mayhem. I got another call. He's like, "Yeah, we're not going." I'm like, "No, I wasn't going to go anyway." So, like, no. So, and this year is even still up in the air, because Pennsic already been postponed this year. They've already called it. So I wouldn't be at all surprised. Well, I don't know. It's up in the air for Dragon Con still. I'd love to go. And now that I know that Pennsic is going to happen, I could probably swing it. I could just drive down there, whatever. But again, they may or may not even do Dragon Con this year, or it may be sort of a limited capacity thing, and it may be impossible to get a ticket. If you're not what was it, I want to say season ticket holder. That's not right. The lifetime memberships or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Because the lifetimers are probably all be able to go. But anyway. All right. Well, see, this has actually turned into quite the conversation.
Sure.
Why don't we it's after 11 p.m. Actually, it's almost 11:30. Do we want to call it, make our plugs and say our goodbyes?
Think so.
All right. So
Okay.
Green, what you got for us? Is your turn in the spotlight.
Well, don't turn that light on too much. I don't want to blind people.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, I'm going to be doing. I'm going back to some more action-based streaming. Getting back in Warframe, getting back in, diving into Cyberpunk
Oh yeah.
77. I'm really enjoying doing chat stream. Those are fun. But the past couple of months, I've had one thing after another, and I just have not been able to stream any degree of regular. So I'm hoping that I'll be streaming again regularly next week. That would be at twitch.tv/thegreenbear. Come up and see me some.
Come up and see me sometime. Well, let's hope all of your maladies are kept at bay, so you can actually do some streaming here.
It's been 23 prior to this thing, this crap that's been happening. It's been 23 years since I last had to go to an ER or even see a doctor.
Yeah.
And this just came out of
nowhere. Yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, I'm glad you're on the mend, though.
I'm glad I can speak again.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
I'm glad I can swallow, eat, breathe, and breathe was figuring in. So bad shit. Stay away.
Yeah,
Stay
no
away.
kidding. You've had enough. All right, Pagan Tech.
Well, you can find me on twitch.tv/Pagantech, PAGANTEK. I'm just going to try to stream whatever I can stream, and the reason I say that is because there's no telling what my video card's going to be able to handle. It's going to be science or some space stuff or flight sim stuff or something, whatever I can get to work. My go-to right now is Kerbal, just because I absolutely love doing Kerbal Space Program. It's fun stuff.
So it's kind of video card roulette when you're playing, in other words.
Pretty much. I never know what game is going to call into that upper memory register, but usually it's one of the higher end games that has a lot of graphics, or DirectX 11, I think, is really where that call is made.
we'll keep our fingers crossed for you for getting a new video card. And at the same time, I will keep my eyes open on Micro Center up in Cleveland. And if they happen to get some in, I'll give you the high sign. And then maybe we can coordinate and get you another video card.
Heck yeah, 6800 XT. That's my dream card.
XT.
Yep.
That's the one. Okay,
Yeah.
I will keep that in mind.
Appreciate it.
So for me, that's stnradio.com. Not 24 hours yet, but I do broadcast on Wednesday evenings, Friday evenings starting at 6, Saturday starting at 7, and Sundays are a good time. Sundays 11 to 1, and then sometimes I'll throw something on after the brunch with the Beatles, and then Sunday evening at 6 is 2 hours of heavy metal with myself and Jerry Formal, and then after that, I run this show. So, which is nice because I just push the button and then I go and do whatever I want. So, but okay, well, this has been fun. Oh, and you haven't heard Jerry because Jerry had to duck out after the first segment. But he will be back, as far as I know, next week. I think everybody will be back next week.
Yeah,
Maybe.
as far as I'm
Unless we
aware.
record earlier, I'm going to be out of town next week.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So it may just be the three of us, and then I'll see if maybe I can get see if we can maybe recruit a guest star in here for
I'm good with that.
for a couple hour
Yeah.
segment, and just BS with them. But all right. Well, for the people listening on STN Radio, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for sticking in there. Hope you've enjoyed the conversation, and we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.
Everybody
You say
on
Fat Station.
Fat.
Bat.
No, we're already there at the Fat
Bat
Station.
station. Yeah, seriously.
Thanks to anybody who is actually catching me on twitch.tv. I appreciate it, and I will see you next time. See you later.